Hi, I'm Maria Paula Bautista, Acelas, Scientific Affairs Specialist at DIA, and today I'm honored to welcome Roberta Albany and Desiree Walker here to the DIA booth at the DIA Global Annual Meeting 2023 in Boston. Welcome and thank you for joining us today. Both of you are exceptional patients who are also members of the Patient Partner Programs 2023. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
So to start our conversation, would you mind sharing a little bit about what organization do you represent and what specific work the organization does?
Thank you for the opportunity to be here and have this experience as well as this interview. I would like to start off to say that the majority of my focus is breast cancer. And one of the organizations that I have committed a lot of time to is Young Survival Coalition. And the reason for that is I was diagnosed as a young woman, and they're focused on the unique needs of those young adults diagnosed with breast cancer.
Thank you for having me, for one. So my focus is breast cancer as well. And I started my advocacy through Living Beyond Breast Cancer, and now work closely with the Chrysalis Initiative as a breast cancer coach. And I have my own organization called Cancer in the Know, where that is just a landing page for all my advocacy work in the community.
Okay, may I ask you what encouraged you to become a patient advocate?
For myself, when I was diagnosed in December 2013, and as I was receiving treatment in 2014, I noticed a disconnect. And that disconnect was with people that look like myself. So with that being said, I wanted to be a part of the solution, and that is how I began my advocacy through Living Beyond Breast Cancer. So I advocated for myself, but I wanted to be able to, advocate for others a lot better, and I wanted to be trained, so they helped me. And I always like to tell people from that point on, I just kind of just flourish and work with numerous other organizations to bring about a change in the disparity gaps in marginalized communities, especially in the Black communities.
So for me, I was diagnosed at the age of 38 as a young adult. And what was the realization was that many people did not believe young adults could be diagnosed with breast cancer at the time, as well as African Americans were told that they had a low incidence of the disease. And so when I heard the words, "you have breast cancer," for me, it was very interesting because I had never seen any young adults diagnosed. I thought it was an older woman's disease. And then many in my community were not aware as well. So I took it upon myself to not be silent, not to be ashamed of the diagnosis, but to go out into the community and start to educate on what breast cancer was, so that people could be better prepared and informed to take action, to know their bodies in order to make a difference. But the sad reality is also being out there, I realized that at the time, I worked and I had excellent health insurance. And I realized health insurance makes a difference in terms of what your cancer experience was. And so I had an opportunity to also bring voice to that, to say that there are many individuals or communities that are underserved. And I wanted to start to say we need to focus on health equity for all. And so with my advocacy, in addition to doing outreach to educate, I then started to learn about the science of breast cancer so that I could then participate at research conferences in order to be able to understand what they were talking about. Because I like to say that when you get diagnosed, it's a whole other language. And it doesn't matter how educated you are, often you can't understand a word of what is being said. And I wanted to be able to break things down into plain language so that the people in my community could start to actually understand what was being said and have pointed questions to ask so that they could actually be involved in their care as opposed to just being reactionary and doing what they're told.
Would you like to share with us one success story from your advocacy role where you feel that your work has been most beneficial in this field?
For me, the success stories is when you go and you share your story with everyone, educate the community. For me, I like when people reach back out to me and say that they, had their mammograms or some type of wellness with themselves or their family members. But more importantly, if something happens and they have a family member or whomever diagnosed with cancer, most of the time they come back and say, I appreciate what you do. I thank you for what you're doing, because the information you come back and share with us after you go to so many conferences, it has helped me pass that information along to their family members. So what I do in the community is I know it's working. They're listening and they're sharing the information. So that's my success stories with it.
And I would just, share an example along a similar line to say at one of my talks many years ago, and although I was specifically talking about breast and ovarian cancer, my message is always that individuals should know their bodies. And they should be able to advocate for themselves when they don't feel things are right. And a woman in the audience reached out to me, a couple weeks later to say, because of my talk, she actually went to have a GYN appointment that she had put off because she had too many things going on. And she realized during the talk, it had been a few years. And so she was calling to actually say thank you and to inform me that she felt gratitude because I saved her life. Because in her going for that appointment and having the Pap test done, she was actually diagnosed with cervical cancer. And she felt that, had I not planted the seed about, are you taking care of yourself? Are you getting your screenings? She may not have taken immediate action, and the result could have been different. I would also say that, I've had the privilege of doing reviews for different funders, DOD and PPORI, et cetera. And I remember, early in the process, they had stated, as a patient advocate, they really wanted me to focus on the patient experience. And was this study going to be novel and really make a difference in the cancer space? And I, made an argument, to the group, to the panel when we met in person, why this really wasn't going to be a game changer. And, and the justifications for my thought process. And I have to say that although there were statisticians, there were clinicians, and there were scientists there, they came up to me after and thanked me for my remarks, because it helped them to actually think in a different way, take off their lens, and actually now think in a broader perspective, because all that we say we're doing is for the patient is not often the case. So I would, share that as another opportunity that I have had in order to make a difference in the lives, not just from the community or patient perspective, but to also help different stakeholders start to think differently when they're doing reviews that are going to potentially be funded in the future.
This is wonderful. And now I am intrigued to know a little bit, if you would like to share with us, what are some of your upcoming goals and how will contributing to DIA 2023 will help you to meet them?
So for me, I would say, my goal, it has been and it continues to be that health equity is not a luxury, but it's an option for all. And so all of my efforts in the various endeavors, I'm involved, yes, in patient advocacy, but I also do research advocacy as well as legislative advocacy, because I feel that we need to understand that we need the research, which is the evidence-based information, but that's what also is needed for the policy conversations. And so I just really want to be able to have the language so that I can communicate on behalf of those who are voiceless in order to be part of the change that I feel is needed, but we have not gotten close enough to. And so I think, for me, coming to DIA 2023 has provided me with an opportunity to listen, right? Because I don't spend a lot of time in the regulator space to really understand what they're thinking about. And perhaps maybe state what they should be thinking about as at the end of the day, because I really feel that all what we should be doing should be focused on the patient experience. No one ever wants to have a disease or a condition, but the reality is that somebody will. And if they are on that particular journey, it's going to be really important that the experience can be as positive as it can be at the end of the day. It can't be positive if those who have influence are not being thoughtful in the process. And so I want to be that person to always make sure that those who need to be served are, and those that are serving know how to.
And for me, my goal is to continue to do my outreach in the community, create more programs, but more specifically, I'm working with other people to do support groups for Black women specifically, because there are issues that they feel as though they don't feel safe. So I'm working on those things to have a place where they can feel safe and talk about whatever their issues may be. Continue to do, my advocacy work with other organizations. And also with the DIA, I would like to, like what Desiree said, learn more about what the regulators are thinking about, understand their thinking, and just understand DIA in a whole. So that would be my goal. Once I understand it, then I'll go back to my community and share that with them.
So along the same lines, I would like to ask you if would you recommend all our patients to attend the DIA Global Annual Meeting, and why?
So I definitely think it's an opportunity. However, what I would say is it's going to really be important to understand the DIA space in terms of how it wants to utilize patient advocates, research advocates, etc. Because people who get diagnosed want to make a difference. However, everyone doesn't have the same interest in how they define making a difference. And so although this would be a great place for some individuals, it would be important to understand, is it the right fit? Because I can think of, as I talk to you, many advocates that I know, but this is not where they really want to make a difference. And so again, for me, it's really trying to get the people who could participate and really get excited about this particular space to identify those individuals and pass the information on. But I don't think that every patient advocate would find this, to be as exciting, because at the end of the day, we all come to it from different spaces, and we all want to be gratified at the end of the day for what we're doing and how we're spending our time. And so I think that, it's going to be important to see how this develops, because it is a challenge. I will say, I've been in the advocacy space for a very long time, and I will tell you that over the years, it's been very challenging to go to conferences, forums, etc., where you are of the few and you don't have an opportunity to connect, to learn from other advocates, as well as the other side of it is, because there's so few of you in a space, the people that see that you are an advocate that really would like to get to know an advocate and what they can learn, then you're bombarded, right? And they're taxed at the end of the day. And so for me, I'd really like to see more advocates have the opportunity to be able to participate and be able to have spaces where we could be the center, where the conversations that need to be held for all the different exhibitors, they can come and learn. Because right now, it feels as if they're marketing at the end of the day, but have they ever talked to a patient to make sure what they're marketing is appropriate when you get out into the real world?
everything that Desiree said, I agree. So I'm not going to repeat the same thing. But what I will say, if it's not about us, then you have there's no point. So in other words, you have to have us in it for it to be about us.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, these were all the questions that I have for you today. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing with us this wonderful work that you have been doing through your advocacy in your communities. We really appreciate this and looking forward to speaking to you in another occasion.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For DIA, I'm Maria Paula Bautista Acelas. Thank you.